I'm Angela Judd. I'm a master gardener here in Mesa, Arizona, and I like to share garden inspiration and helpful tips so you can be successful in your own garden. Happy to be here with Kellogg Garden today. So in beginning of July, this garden was happening, full summer garden in swing. I had cantaloupes growing, watermelon, Armenian cucumbers, butternut squash, lots of things growing. It was looking great. I was harvesting a lot, and then monsoon happens. And a microburst, which is a windstorm, hit my backyard. I don't think it was targeting my garden, but it kind of felt like it. So I lost almost everything. So all that stuff I was harvesting, gone. But gardeners are a tough lot. So I made the most of it and harvested what I could, pulled it out, and what do you know, I have 3 nearly empty gardening beds, which never happens because I'm more of a transitional gardener. You know, if something comes out, I plant something else. So here I have 3 empty beds. So what do? I'm thinking, okay, I've got all this fresh compost. I'm gonna fill up my beds with compost. I added organic fertilizer, and I took that chance to put in a new watering system. I have a watering system now that divides the beds into square foot gardening, and that keeps me super organized. So I really like it. So went from full lush garden to basically empty garden, but now that empty garden has compost, organic fertilizer, and a new watering system. And it's the perfect time of year because that monsoon season here in Arizona, we get kind of a little extra planting time. When it's that humidity comes in, then it's the right time for a second planting of beans and squash, and I'm even trying corn. I'm kind of a corn newbie, but I'm going to give it a try, and some more cucumbers. So now my garden bed, instead of my summer vegetables filling up or finishing up and waiting anxiously for fall planting to start, I've got all this great stuff growing in my garden. My yummy beans are coming up. I saw a few squash blossoms today. I'm super excited about this kind of second harvest we're going to have for the summer here in Arizona after that monsoon kind of took out my garden. What gardening challenges do you face in your area? I know here in Arizona that's a problem sometimes for us, the wind and the storms. You have gardeners from all over the country that face different challenges and different issues. What gardening problems have you faced? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear some of your gardening challenges and what you've done to kind of overcome those and work through those. For me, this really ended up being a good learning experience. Also, I'm glad for the opportunity to have planted something new, and it's been a great thing. Okay, so now we're going to get to what has been on everyone's mind, fall planting. Our summer gardens have been producing for us. We love our summer gardens, but they're coming to an end, and now everyone's talking about fall planting. What can I plant in my fall garden? When do I plant my fall garden? What should I do? So I asked on Instagram, in my Insta story, I said, what questions do you have about fall planting? Overwhelmingly, the #1 response was, what do I do to get my soil ready for planting? And I love that. I love that people recognize that the soil is the most important part of a garden. That really is the first thing we should think about. The most important thing we can do to improve our gardens is to improve our soil. So the summer garden has again produced for us all summer, but that soil is depleted. If you look at your garden beds, you can see it looks like the soil has shrunk a little bit, and your eyes aren't deceiving you. That organic matter in the soil has broken down, and it really is lower down. It really has lost some of its volume. So the first thing you need to do is add compost. I get really excited about compost. I make my own compost. I think everyone should make their own compost, but I understand that you all don't get quite as excited about making compost as I do, and so it's perfectly fine to buy it. And if you buy it, buy several different types of compost and add all that in. That way you're getting a variety of compost in there to add more depth and richness to your soil. So you've got that garden bed that sunk down, go ahead and fill it right back up with compost. Mix that in with your existing soil. Your garden will thank you. There'll be lots of organic matter in there that's going to feed the soil. Okay, so you've got your compost in, and the next thing that you can do is I like to add some organic fertilizer. Organic fertilizer is going to have organic matter in it, and it's also going to have some of those micronutrients that are going to break down slowly over time and add health to your soil. It's different than a synthetic fertilizer, which are chemicals that are going to give you a big burst, but over time, but then they break down quickly and they're not adding to the health of your soil. So I like to add organic fertilizers, and that really just improves the health of the soil. So you've got your soil, your summer plants removed, you've added in compost, you've added in organic fertilizer, and your soil is ready to go, ready for fall planting. So the second question that I got the most was, what do I plant? And I wish I had a crystal ball and I could tell you exactly what to plant right in your area. Unfortunately, we live in a big country with lots of climate zones, lots of different growing areas. Even within your own yard, within my own yard, I have different microclimates that different things can grow in. So the advice and the tip that I would give you is to seek out a reliable planting guide for your area. I think the best place to look, to start looking, is through your local extension office. Call them, ask them, what's a planting guide that you would recommend? Hopefully, like here in Maricopa County, the extension office has a wonderful planting guide. Super planting guide for Maricopa County. I followed a different one for a couple of years and couldn't understand why I wasn't having success. I was planting at the right times, and then I finally got a hold of this planting guide and have had much more success. That being said, a guide still is just that, it's a guide. If you are unseasonably hot or unseasonably cold, pay attention to that. Just because it's September 1st and it says you can plant something on September 1st, if it's 110 degrees outside and it's not normally 110 degrees, don't plant it. So use common sense along with that guide and start planning what you're going to be planting in your fall garden. Another tip, so when you go to look for seeds, there's going to have different days to harvest. And because we're coming into kind of a shorter planting season, you are going to want, if you have a choice between different varieties, look for the ones that has a shorter days to harvest. If one is 55 days to harvest and another one is 65 days to harvest, you might have better luck with that 55 days to harvest, especially if you're going to try and do some succession planting, which means planting that crop several times over time. So that's another tip when you're looking for seeds. When you are looking at transplants, you're at the garden center and they have all these transplants, and you see some transplants that are big and you think, man, I am getting the bang for my buck with these transplants. Hold on, not so fast. It's actually smaller, a lot of times, is better, not bigger. So you want to look at that little, maybe that 6-pack that has those vegetables in it, and if those plants are really big and have outgrown that container, that's not a good thing. It's not more bang for your buck. You're getting extra problems for your buck because those roots have probably become root bound in that little container. You want to have a small, healthy looking plant, 2, 3, maybe 4 inches tall, and that plant, you're going to plant it at your house and it's going to adapt to the conditions at your own garden, not the conditions in the nursery as it continues to grow. Another thing to keep in mind with transplants is that you don't want to come home and plant them right away in the heat of the day. Here in Arizona, we're still contending with pretty warm days. And so what I like to do is maybe set them outside in the shade for a day, make sure they're watered, and then the following night, I like to plant them at night so they can adjust to the conditions and have a night to kind of settle into their new home and be happy before that heat of the day comes. You may have a different problem. It may be starting to cool off at night. So in that case, you're going to want to plant yours first thing in the morning so it can adjust through the heat of the day to its conditions before it has to adjust to those cooler temperatures at night. So those are a couple of things to keep in mind. All right, another question I got in the comments is what am I planting? What am I planting in my fall garden? So I've got my Monsoon garden going, and I had some extra space, so one of our family's favorite things that I've just planted this last week are carrots. We love fresh carrots from the garden. You can get so many more varieties when you grow from seed, but also the flavor is so good. We love fresh carrots, and there is nothing like a fresh pulled carrot. I have a lot of kids that come visit my garden, and my own kids love to go out. I don't care how old they love to go out and pull a carrot. So I snuck in some carrots. The one tip with carrots is those seeds are really little and they dry out really easily. So there are a few tricks to keep them. You want to make sure they stay moist while they're getting germinated. So you might have to water them a couple of times a day to make sure that they stay moist and they are not drying out. So that's the only thing with carrots. But I've also started some seeds indoors because it is still kind of warm out here. I've started seeds for kale, cauliflower, broccoli, spinach, and maybe a couple other things inside. So those things are growing under grow lights and hopefully will be nice seedlings ready to transplant into the garden here in another few weeks when it cools down a little bit. When it cools down just a little bit, I'm also, beginning of September, I'm also going to be planting peas. We love peas. And I don't care who you are, it's just more fun to eat a purple pea. So you also can't find those always in the store. So it's really fun, especially for kids, to grow those fun colored vegetables and just even the regular vegetables. Until they really get going, most of the peas don't make it in the house. They are just yummy. So we'll be starting lots of peas. I'll be starting, radishes and all the root vegetables. You really don't want to start root vegetables other than straight in the garden. You want to plant those seeds right in the garden. They don't transplant well. So you want to wait till it's the right time to plant the beets and turnips and all of those other fun things that are so fun to grow in your winter garden. So there you have it. There's some frequently asked questions about fall planting. Ask me in the comments. What questions do you have about your fall garden? I'll hop on and try and answer those questions for you. I hope that you've had something give you some ideas for your own fall garden. Again, share your successes, share your challenges, ask me questions. I'm happy to answer what I can and maybe lead you in the right direction to find that answer for your own garden. Again, I'm Angela Judd from Growing in the Garden. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you get to spend some time in the garden today.